Sorry, I forgot to hit the record button. Sorry. Yeah, so we'll set one more API where we are trying to get. I'm taking a little more complex API here. This particular API gives, instead of a standard one dimension response, JSON response, so it will gives you a list of objects. So we'll see how we can validate a complex list object as well. Yeah. Get data. So it's over there. Okay, and then the type is again a REST. So I'm selecting a group and then I'm trying to save it. So just save it. Now the next step is we have seen uh, in the previous thing where we have to set up a request template now, right? So I'll copy paste the request template. Okay, we'll copy our request template here. And then we have to set up the request headers. So I have 3 request headers that need to be set up. Okay. Then accept. Sure. So I have set up the request template. As I've done before, told you before, wherever I have these dynamic values, I'm putting this dollar symbol and flower brackets. I'm giving that value. Put that as a JSON, and then and then I also did the request headers. And to give an example, here also we are using the access token that we got into a as a dynamic value that needs to be going into the thing. So that's the first step, right? So that's done, set up now. So the next step is, okay, the API is done. Next up, let's hit the save. Let's say hit the save button. Then let's select a deployment on which deployment I want to run this. And then I hit the. So as you can see in the bottom, so it clearly gives all the exceptions that we give. So so for it to execute this, I am not able. We didn't get the values that we expect to get, which is the customer ID, tree ID type, and the access token, because that's what we have defined in our request template as a dynamic values. So what does that mean? So we have to go to your default params, and then we have to set up the params here. So we have to give some values here so that we can hit the right values there, and then expect to get some response. Okay, and then I have a tree ID. Is that so customer history? Oops. Okay, now I need the access token, which so we are here. So we need to this API should give me the access token. So I got my access token here. to this API, the save button. Okay, now let's hit the test button so we get your response. So the response was successful. So once we get your response, we have your response body. This is where you will see all the data that we got for this. So where you can see here, the status code is 200. That's what we got, and you also have the response time taken for you to execute this API is also 920 milliseconds. And then you have all the JSON object, whatever is there, is being displayed here. In addition to that, you also have your response headers defined here. So whatever the headers that you want to see is also will be displayed here for your information. So to this extent, I think this is what everything is manual now. So we define it, and then we have to typically, if you're using a Postman or similar kind of stuff, then you have to check manually all these data elements, browsing through these complex JSONs. So to simplify this, so obviously what we need, two things that we want to do, any tester, right? So one is we want to do perform some validations, and also sometimes we may want to take some meaningful information back to your testing context so that you can use it for a different API. Say, for example, in the login API, for example, in the response, I would like to take my auth token, which here I have manually used it to consume into the another API. But if I'm doing it on a sequence of tests, then obviously you want to take the access token from the first one and want to use it in the next one. So to do that, so there is a one-time definition of a schema. We call it a schema. So this schema needs to be set up to define what are the rules and what is that you want to extract. Okay, so it's again very simplified. There's no complex things there. So making it big. So we'll just say create a new schema, and then we'll just say schema, and then the match string is customer. So this is one of the advanced features. So sometimes you have multiple responses coming for your APIs. So one schema will not be sufficient. So we can define multiple schemas as well within our system. So I'm just taking this customer. So to ensure that I have my the word customer is there. So if the response contains the word customer, then this schema will be picked up. Okay. Now we'll define some rules on how and what we want to extract. First thing is this is a very complex object when compared to the normal APIs, right? So where you have array of the things. So your response is this. So you have a response object, and then so at a root level you have a response object, a status message, status code, and a status flag, right? And the second level you have a customer, and within the customer you have an array. So this is a complex object. So we'll try to set up how we do that. First we'll do so first thing we do is let's do for a status code. Okay, so I have response object dot status code, and obviously data type is an integer. And then what is that I expect to see? It's I want it to be equal to 200. Okay, then it's my a successful assertion rule. And then I want to say, so what we have done here is traversing through your JSON object. This is so request object is the parent object what you have. And oh, sorry, I don't need to put the request because I have the status code directly. So that's my mistake. So I don't have to put that. So I can put a status code directly like this. And then if you can save it once and test it. So API is successful. So your assertion result comes out here. Okay, so we are successfully able to test that. Okay, so do we do a little bit more on adding a more complex rules to it and to improvise our schema so that we can do more things with your response object. So next we'll try to do something about the customer data. Right? So I have response object dot customer. Now the data type what it has is an array, as we know that it's an array. So I'm just converting that as an array. Obviously, because it's an array, I don't want to put any assertion rules there. So I'll put into a variable called customer audit. Okay, and the next thing what I have now, what we do. Sorry, this came into string while. Sorry, array, right? So I'm defining this in array. Sorry. Okay, so that's saved as an array. So once you define array, is obviously because it's in under the customer object. So we have to define. Now we define up to here. So now each one has a different object. So we'll take one object for reference, and then we'll try to define the schema for the object within the array. Okay, so to do that, come here, and then you click this. So we are traversing now to the next level, and now we can see within the object what do I have. I have action, last action. So copy that, last action, and the data type is string, and asset operation, let's say I want to see the string length must be greater than, say 5 characters. Okay, okay, and this last thing, so last action. So if I want to extract the data, so I also need to have some variable name that I want to store in. So that's what I'm using the last action as a variable name to get that out. Okay, we'll do one more field. Let's say do a customer name. Again, this is a string, and then I'll put string greater than 5. Oops, I'll put a customer name. Okay, let me save the schema. Okay, now we can hit the test button to see what happens. Nothing came up. Sorry. Let's do that again. Sorry, for some reason it didn't save. Response. Okay, and then I do this. 5. Some reason they didn't store. Okay, I'll some reason that it didn't work there. Okay, I'll put one more status message to see if we're able to get that. Cool. So if I test it now, I should get my assert result. So we're able to do like that. So first, I think same there's some small issue with the array kind of stuff. So I will get it rectified and we'll post improvised session recording session onto the YouTube and share it across with you guys. Okay, so now we have seen how to do perform some rules and get the data out. So here also we can see what we want to extract from the API is clearly coming out like this. Okay, so similar lines, I will try to do the auth token as well here. What we want to get here, right? So we'll do a small session on that and try to get that auth token as well. Let's do something quickly. Um, Again, there. Uh, Details dot. String and string length, say greater than 10. Access token. Okay, test that. So get your assertion result there, and also you have a response data that coming out like this. So we have seen now how do we apply some assertion rules on your response. So this is what you do in as a manual tester, right? So you day in day out you try to perform your assertions on top of it, right? So by doing manually, but here whatever you are doing once, you are setting that as a schema once, and this will be used for your manual testing as I've been using it. The same will be consumed in your regular API testing as well for your regressions. Okay. I will go to the next part where we see now the API component. Next one is testing with dynamic data, right? So I'll show you an example of how we're gonna inject some dynamic data. I already prepared some, so we're gonna use that and uh, add some test data to it, and then prepare a suit. A suit means what is the script that you want to execute as part of your test, and then we'll create a test and run and show you the results. Okay. So what we have seen on the high level, right? So the right hand side is contains objects, which contains your data variables or UI elements or your API elements. So whatever the configuration components that you want to define, you're defining on your right hand side. On the left hand side is what you want to test, functional tests. Whatever the functional test that you want to perform will be done here. Okay. I'm taking an example here, save policy API kind of thing. So what we are saying, you just give a name to it, and then you tell I'm doing an API kind of a testing here. Once I do that, right? So now you have two properties that you define to say where is my Excel file name and sheet name where you want to inject the data into this particular test. Okay. So as we said before, right? So we are completely a cloud-based thing. So we have integration with collaborative document editing tools like SharePoint or Google Sheets. So where you don't have to manage your test data locally, everything will be on the cloud. So again, it's all integrated within our with our QATTS platform. So you don't have to step out of your browser to do that. Okay, I'll show you an example how we do this. So once we do that, so the test case management is done here, where you have your test cases and whatever the functionalities you define there, right? So you have here save policy API. This is what I'm referring to. So that's where I'm linked this with. Here the small link is there, which actually takes me to the SharePoint integration that I was talking about, where the file name is save policy API and the sheet name is save policy. All the test data is residing in here. So you can define your test case reference, and then you can define all your data that you want to use for your API into this thing. All the columns in the green are the product elements that we define. So everything that you define, say for example, action by, will be defined here as a action by is defined as a product element here. So again, the moment I tell whether I know whether it's a string or a number or a date, what kind of component, it's already recognizes it. So you don't have any issues in data reading or parsing the data in the right way. And obviously we give a lot of customizations in terms of customizing your date formats or number formats. It's all very much customizable here. So coming back, right? So you define your a functional test that you want to do, and you're saying naming it, and then you're telling which API you want to sorry, the Excel file and sheet name from your test data repository you are trying to link with. And then you can write your description here, prepare kind of thing. And then next part of it is to inject the API component that you built. This is the first step, is send request, and then you have your save customer policy. So I'll pull that out, API that we trying to use. So this is an API. This is a big request template that we have. So I just made sure instead of wasting your time, so I just brought up set up this already, so that it's easy for us to run through the features rather than just typing all this. Okay, so the API is being set up. There is a request template and there, and then you have your response there, and then on the response you have your the schema which is defined very well, and then basis of that it's all being tested to perform what assertion results that I need to bring out. And similarly, the data, what data I want to extract from this API is also being defined here. So that is being given here as a test data now. So we are having this as a save policy API. That's what we testing here, save policy API. So we are giving that as a request. Okay. Now we'll see how we're gonna this particular test can be executed now. So to do that, we'll just need to create a suit. Suit is nothing but your smoke suit or regression suit. But here is just we have one API that we want to test to start off with. So I'm just creating one suit. Test suite. I'm just creating that demo API test suite. I'm just doing a little bit of description, and the suite can be make it visible to your friends within your company, or you can keep it private. If it means private, means it will be only visible to you, so you can change that, making it public. And then is it a manual kind of a suite or a automation thing? So as selecting automation here, because we are doing performing automatic regression testing on an API. Now I have to call my save policy API. This is the functionality that I want to test. And then now I have to link what test case references that I want to link with this. So all the test case references that I have here are coming here. I can add this as a step. I can also do one more here. Let's say performance. So you can keep adding all your test cases like this. Okay, I'm just saving this. I saved the test suite. Now I'm going to run this now. To run this, I need to go to my test runs here, and I'll create a new test run, automated API demo test run. So this is the suite that I have just created. It's giving a unique name. Then which deployment you want this to be run on. So I'm selecting a development environment for now. And what is the build number that I have been assigned to this particular test. And I can select, because it's an API, I don't want to select an agent. And then you can select which agent you want to run this. So you can run on a remote machines, or you can also configure it to run it on your local machines as well. So I'm enabling the test mode for now. So it's assigned to a particular node called professor, and will take the responsibility of executing. Typically, when you're doing your regression testing, most important, one of the major step that you have to do is to copy your scripts to a machine that you want to execute it on, and then you copy your test data, prepare all the environment, and then initialize your tests. So here we don't have to do any of that. So you can see your test is getting prepared, and then we are trying to execute the test. So the test is successfully completed, and now we can see the results there. So here what we see here is more textual logs, which has a more detailed description about what we are testing. This is more for a developer oriented to go in depth to see is a compilation failure, or your failure at a preparation level or execution level. So everything will be very much detailed here. So we don't need to see this at this time. So this is what your result summary is. So if you look at the result summary, we have selected 2 test cases. Both are from Safe Policy API, and both are being successful. So we got 100% score on that. So for us to analyze that, so we have each and every step here, which we click on it, then I automatically see what steps are being performed here. So what you can see is the send request is one of the thing that we have done. So we can see all that data here. Don't need to see that. So see something pretty like this, right? So we can see our request that is being created with the help of the test data that we injected into it, and then the request status also, in case if there is any, is being displayed here. And then in the bottom, you can also see the response here. So we got some bad request here. So then you have your response headers coming through, and your so because you got a wrong response, then you got assertion failure as well. Okay. So this is how we inject the dynamic data and then connect that with the next APIs. Now, as part of this suite, right? So when we created this suite, the suites are very flexible. So we can play around to do a number of things that we want to do with it. So here I did like this, but I can also give things like 1, 2, 4, for example. So you don't have to keep doing one by one. So you can also do a sequence, things like that. I'll just delete this for now and then update it. Yeah, I can just rerun the task. Okay, so here you can see all the 4 test cases that we gave executed. Okay, so we get that. Right. So I'll just take a quick pause and see if anyone have a question, so that I can happy to answer that. If anyone have a questions, you can unmute yourself and ask me, or you can drop it in the chat window.
Hi Ram, I have just one question. This is Amit here.
Hey, Amit?
Yes, is there any possibility like we can write test and validate the responses?
Yeah, that is what we did, right? The test is what we done is a test here, right? So you are performing a test here.
Yes, yes, and this is which language? It is Java or
This is at the moment a Java, so we are going to make it as a complete no-code platform in a next week, in a month. We are going to get as a no-code
okay,
platform.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, this is
So only Java is supported, right? Correctly.
correct at the moment. Yes, yeah,
Okay, okay. Yeah,
yeah. But as you can see, right, so it's not a complex coding or
yeah, I
anything.
understood.
Just that,
Yeah, yeah,
just the mimicking your user actions. What you want to do will be displayed here. As simple as
mhm,
that. Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah, we simplified it, and intentionally we kept it into this low code platform, so that in case if you have data engineering that needs to be done, so you end up sometimes if it is a no code, so you will have some challenges and not able to achieve certain things. So we intentionally kept it as a low code. Now with the users feedback now, so we are trying to give a no code version as well, which is work in progress. In the next month we'll try to get that in a month or two. Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Okay, so I'll move to the next part of the demo, where we're trying to do unit testing. So what is a unit testing is when you're doing testing, right? So typically when you have an API, so you have an API, and then API contains like 10 to 15 fields, right? So, and then that all, when you give all that, then you have a use case, successful use case, and that's where you'll try to test that part of. So, but often what you have is when you're doing a testing, when you're doing testing, you're more focused on each and individual parameter. So you want to make sure you want to give a variety of data for one parameter under the subset of a big test case, right? So we to simplify that into the automation, so without much of a coding and all those things, so we enable this unit level testing kind of an API. So I'm going to run through this, explain you how this is done. Um, so I'll switch back to the art product. So continuing with the same use case that we're talking about, where we have a save policy and a customer and a policy API that needs to be saved. So we have one more method which is called here form field API level action. So this is an optional thing, so it won't be kicked in all the time. Only when you ask it to be executed at the suit level, then you can enable that. So before we start that, right, so I'll take an example of a test case, right? So here we have taken a test case of let's say the eligibility with the 12 months. We are saving as a dummy a policy that we're trying to save. From there, now we want to test if we have how does the application behave if I have a different occupations that we want to given for the same data set that I given for this 12-month warranty, right? This is a 12-month use case that I have. So within that, I want to give more deeper and give variety of combinations on a given data set. So we have that covering as a field level testing. So we have your policy API, and from there I click on this to go to your. It's a different data set when compared to the functional data set, because here we are focused on one particular test case rather than one particular field of a big API, right? So we are focused on that. So here we have a different test cases that you want to test. So we can have a group of fields like this, where I'm saying, so here I want to check with the occupation being this, and then the payment type being monthly payment. So then what is the output? I want to check the language like this. So like this, I can define like this occupation and like this. So for each and every occupation, now I can test it. So By doing so, two things. One, you are not mixing your individual field level testing into your functional testing. And also when you are getting your error reporting, what particular scenario of field validation has failed, you have a more clear and very much visible error reporting will be there. So we'll see how we're gonna invoke this. So as you can see here, there's two columns that we have, which is the parent test case. So what that means is it is a subset. This particular test always executes as a subset of a test case which is under a field level, sorry, the functional testing, which says eligibility as 12 months. Right. So now we'll see how to enable that testing and give it here. So we go back to our suite, which is the demo API suite. So I read this. So this is the eligibility 12 months I want to do, and I want to here enable my field level testing. So if I give that as an extra option there, now this will be performed as a unit level testing for your APIs. So we'll take this task and I will rerun this. Now this test case, right, as you have written your test as, so you have your main test as once an API, and then after that you also performing a combination of scenarios that you want to test with this group of API testing as a result, which are defined here as an API testing group. So we have around 5 combinations here. So the main test case is 1, and then you have the sub test cases as 5. So all that will be executed and given you the results here. So while the test is going on, you can see how many tests are going on, and you can see what's been executing and what is getting here as well. Okay, so it's executed it, but unfortunately it has failed all the sub test cases. So here we can see the response object being there, and then you have some assertion issues, so that's not configured properly, and obviously I was expecting a success message, but I didn't get a success, so it threw it as a failure. Okay, and that is what I have configured here to check in this field testing. So it will perform all the standard assertion rules that you have configured on it. In addition to that, you go in this particular case also, you can specifically see what you want to test is what you are getting it as well. So here, what status you want to check. I'm expecting to get that, but I didn't get that success response in my API. So this particular test is failed. Okay. So like by doing this, you can create as many sub scenarios under your functional test and create as many things as you want. Um, okay, right. So that's doing a unit kind of a testing. Next, we'll move to the next thing is the functional testing with API chaining. And this is a very important concept where you want to test a sequence of APIs connected together. So that way you can um, do your functionality, you achieve your functional testing by doing API chaining. Meaning, typically, if you have any application that you are testing, typically, if you look at the screen, there will be a number of screens, right? It could be a 4 or 5 screens. So, with the new age technology and with new age architectures, so your APIs will be are different from your UI module. So, when we're doing that, so you will you will have an APIs behind each and every page navigation from one page to another page. So by doing that now, if you are doing a functional UI testing, the same test which may have 3 or 4 pages of navigations and around 20 fields to populate, so it will take at least 1 to 2 minutes based on your application performance. Right? But if you do the same functional testing within APIs that underneath underlying APIs, it hardly takes 4 to 5 seconds. Okay, so now we're going to see how we're going to do that test, API testing, API chaining testing. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to our things. I'll open an example of the thing that we did. Okay, so here I'm saying verify customer audit info. So we're trying to do that, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to execute a test case first, which is my login API. So once I successfully logged in, now then I want to do um, one more request of getting your customer data. So obviously, by doing so, this API demands to have an authentication token that is been coming from this execute test case, which is the login API. So this is nothing but a function kind of a stuff where you can have sub functions that you can define. So I can show that login API, which is nothing but a small function kind of stuff, where you say send request, and I'm trying to get the authentication token and setting it to my cache, which is to for me to be used in my other workflows. Okay, those two lines of codes will execute the login and get me access token. Now from there, because I set it to my global cache, so I'm able to use it in my send request API. Okay, now we'll do a small setup of this and perform this test and see. Uh, Before that, we need to make a suit. Sorry, so we'll just make a suit. So I already prepared one, so just to save time. So this is the functionality that I was talking about, which is the verify customer audit info, and this is where we are, the verify customer audit info. So I'm trying to perform a test on that, where I am giving a, a test case here. So the test case details, you need to be going here and see your verify thing here, and then the link here will open the Excel sheet where we are managing the test data here. So here I have my login details in this sub object, which again refers to another Excel sheet. That's where I'm storing it. So it's reusing the login details that we have used for general login can also be used in this test. Okay, now we're going to perform the test now. API value change. So I'm connecting to that. I'm selecting development as my environment, giving a build number because it's an API kind of thing. I'm not. Okay. Now I'm trying to execute. So we're able to log in. So we got your success response for some reason. So there is a failure in my the second step, which is the getting the data. Some error happened there. So we can get the exceptions there. So what we have seen here is connecting to the API and getting that information as well. So here we use the same data and got the authentication token from the other API and consumed here. And now from there, I'm able to get my data as well. So this is the API we initially try to do and test, where we have multiple API that comes up. That's coming up. The next step is in the functionality is to do the integrate with your database testing as well. So I have performed that action as well in the same test, where I'm getting my data from an API, sorry, from a database. Okay, so this is set up as a query. So we go and search here. Sorry. Get customer audit info. So we have defined a query here. And again, as we did for the APIs, we also did the wherever we want to inject the dynamic values, we're trying to give the dollar symbol and give a customer ID there. So in this particular code, what we did is, again, we got that API and then executed the get customer audit info query and got the results out. And then we are performing the assertion of two data sets that we got from an API and that we got from a database here. So the test is going to show that. So this is what we executed, and the extracted response is here for us to see. So assertion failed, I think. Yeah, and that's why we didn't get the proper response there. So this is the data what we got there. And then from the database, when we execute the database, and this is the data what we got there. Okay. So because of an error, we didn't get the assertion there. So there's a small error there. We'll try to correct that and publish the improvised recordings of the session again. Okay. So that completes this database testing as well. I'll pause there and then take any questions anyone have. Any questions, guys? Yeah, there's a question there. Are GraphQL's API supported? Yes, we support the GraphQL APIs as well. So we have done a use case on that as well. So anyone who is interested, then you can drop a message to us and we can schedule a personal demo to show you that. We can test the GraphQL as well. Any more questions, guys? Thank you, Amit. Thanks for the compliments. We do have some issues in today's demo where we have a couple of exceptions came out. So we correct that and we share the improvised API recording, the session recording into the YouTube, so you can have a look at it. Thank you, guys.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your valuable time. And in the next week or two, we'll do a couple more sessions on our product, so you can have a look at it. Thank you.